All right, a good Wednesday morning to you, Piedmont Triad. Recording this video at about 7 o'clock. So if it's much later in the day, you might want to seek some more updated information. But we have a lot to talk about over the next couple of days in Piedmont weather. Oh yes, the rain gear getting a good workout this week, and the rain we've had so far and we'll get the next day is still not from Helene. That thing is still out near Cozumel, Mexico. We'll show you the latest on that in just a bit. But here's what we're unpacking over the next couple of days. Scattered storms will continue for today and likely for Thursday. Helene will start to move our way late tomorrow night, but mostly in and out on Friday. And the biggest impacts, I think, are going to come Friday morning through midday. And do expect some gusty winds, some power outages will be possible. We have some heavy rain on the way. And yes, with this system, we will have a tornado threat to keep an eye on Friday morning this time around. So something to keep in the back of your mind and keep checking back for updates on. We did have some rain overnight early this morning. Now that's finally moving out, lifting north across the Virginia border. And I expect to have some dry time going into the middle of the day and through a good chunk of the afternoon for our Wednesday. Maybe even some sunshine peeking out as well. So here's the setup. Little disturbance and a front lifting to the north. That'll give us another round of scattered showers and storms for our afternoon and evening. But we also have a front out to the west that's stalling out. And with lots of moisture moving in, that's just going to continue to create rain for our North Carolina mountains and foothills. And that's where I think Helene is really going to spell the biggest problems here in North Carolina. Why is that? Well, we'll not only have Helene moving in, but we'll also be getting almost constant rain in the mountains from today through the day on Friday. So there's going to be several days and a lot of rain that could really cause some big time issues up in the North Carolina mountains. As Helene moves in, we have that stalled front to the west, all of that moisture interacting with the front moving in, going to create tons of heavy rain for the North Carolina mountains through the day tomorrow. For us, our rain from Helene really doesn't even start to arrive until late tomorrow night. But boy, once it does, look at this. When it starts to arrive, we have a ton of it on the way, really into the very early morning hours on Friday through the middle of the day. I do, however, expect things to start to get a little bit better as we get into our Thursday or into our Friday afternoon. So here's the latest on Helene as of this morning. The 5 o'clock update brings it about 45 miles away from Cozumel, Mexico. This thing does continue to strengthen, though. It has 65-mile-per-hour winds right now and moving northwest at about 9 miles per hour. You can see it's really starting to get its act together, and you see all these bright spots of purple blowing up. That's all the convection, all the thunderstorms that are forming and continuing to organize in that system. So as it moves out of the Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to start to move into very warm water. It's going to move into an environment without a lot of wind and really just conducive for further development over the next 24 hours or so. You'll even see hurricane watches and warnings are posted from Tampa all the way up around the Big Bend over to Panama City and even inland into parts of Georgia as well. So lots of folks under hurricane watches and hurricane warnings now, mostly for the wind that this system will bring as it moves ashore tomorrow evening. So here's the latest track, likely becoming a hurricane as we go into late this evening, continuing to strengthen Category 2 by tomorrow morning, and Helene could be a strong Category 3 major hurricane with 120-mile-per-hour winds by the time it starts to come ashore in likely that Big Bend area of Florida tomorrow evening. After that, we pay more attention to it. It does move inland, likely picks up speed, and it will weaken some. The question is how fast it will weaken down and what will the winds look like as it approaches us. It'll move north and then start to make that curve to the north and west. But remember, this cone here, this cone shading you see, is some wiggle room for the center of the storm, not where impacts will be felt necessarily. Impacts can be felt well outside of the center of the storm. That would mean to the west and to the east as well. And for us, this time, we're on the west side or the dirty side of the storm. So where the strongest winds are, which is also why we have that tornado concern this time around too. So here's what Futurecast looks like for Helene. Continues to strengthen. You see those outer bands of Helene starting to arrive in the Big Bend of Florida as we go into the middle of the day tomorrow and into the afternoon. It'll make landfall tomorrow evening in Florida and then push to the north. Meanwhile, ongoing, we still have, don't forget, big time heavy rain up in the North Carolina mountains. We start to get some light rain from Helene as we go into Thursday night. But for us, the biggest chunk of this is mostly going to come Friday morning, and this could be around the commute time frame through the middle of the morning and midday on Friday. After that, I do expect things to start to improve Friday afternoon and Friday evening. By the weekend, I expect we'll be in much better shape. But the mountains will likely have a ton of lingering problems as well. Creeks, rivers, that kind of thing will still continue to rise through the day on Saturday, even into Sunday potentially as well. So as far as our impacts go here, expecting 35 to some 45 mile per hour wind gusts through the morning and midday hours on Friday. Of course, up in the mountains, that's going to be much higher. Some 50 to maybe 60 mile per hour winds will be possible, especially further west that you go. So that's kind of the trend here. The further west of the triad that you go, the worse the impacts are going to be. To the further east you go, the much less impacts are going to be. But with all the rain, 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts, of course, could cause some issues around this area as well, and big time issues up in the mountains. As far as rain goes, we've already picked up about 3 inches of rain here in the Piedmont so far this week. We have another 2 to 4 inches to go most likely through the day on Friday as Helene moves through. And eventually 4 to 7 inches of rain through Saturday in the mountains, maybe 7 to 10 inches of rain in some spots. So there's big time flooding concern up in the North Carolina mountains. Mudslides, landslides, that kind of thing could be a real potential with all of this rain on the way. As far as power outages go, you know, loose soil, a lot of rain, some gusty winds, doesn't take a lot to bring down some trees around here. So I would expect some power outages for our area, likely several power outages, and a big concern, big issue up in the North Carolina mountains. Again, further east of the triad that you go, much less the impacts will be. For us, we have a level 2 risk of flash flooding as we go into our Thursday, much higher up in the North Carolina mountains. That will continue into the day on Friday. We stay in a level 2 flash flooding risk here in the Piedmont. So Friday is a News 2 weather impact alert day, morning to midday most likely. Keep your eyes out, ears open for our changes, but heavy rain and gusty winds are likely from morning to midday. So the best thing you can be doing now is making sure those devices are charged, keeping an eye out for flooding on Friday. And if you haven't yet, tie down all that loose patio furniture, lawn furniture, clear all the drains around your house so that water has at least somewhere to go as it does rain. Friday is going to be a mess of a day of weather. All right, in the meantime, for today, we have the clouds that'll linger for most of the day. A little bit of sunshine peeking out in the afternoon. It'll get warm, temperatures up to around 80. We will keep an eye out again for a round of scattered showers and storms going into the afternoon and evening. Overnight, mostly cloudy. Temperatures will fall back down into the upper 60s to near 70, with those storms coming to an end likely after midnight. Into your Thursday we go. Again, just a few scattered storms for the afternoon and evening. That better rain chance goes late Thursday night and through the day on Friday. Friday is our Helene day here in the Piedmont, but by the evening I expect things to start to get a little bit better. Again, still some residual effects, creeks rising, rivers rising, likely through the weekend, but our weather does improve. Just an isolated shower possible for Saturday, an isolated shower or storm for Sunday. Then we get cooler as we go into next week. We'll start to dry things out by Tuesday and Wednesday.